1:15, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Catherine Pereira, read by Soundhi Thavam. The Prime Minister begins talk with the visiting IMF team in Sri Lanka. The Lotus roundabout in Colombo has been blocked for traffic due to a protest. Ships carrying petrol are scheduled to arrive in the island. 21 suspects who blocked the entrances to the Presidential Secretariat have been taken into custody. Australia to provide $50 million for urgent food and healthcare needs. The World Food Programme says that nearly 5 million people are insecure in food. And in world news, dozens killed and millions stranded in India and Bangladesh floods. The International Monetary Fund team visiting Sri Lanka is currently holding discussions with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Prime Minister's media division said that a 10-member delegation that arrived in Sri Lanka today is currently holding talks with the Prime Minister. The IMF team is on a visit to the island for talks on a bailout program as Sri Lanka is battling its worst financial crisis since independence in 1948. The IMF team visiting Colombo through June 30th will continue recent talks on what would be Sri Lanka's 17th rescue program, the IMF said yesterday. They reaffirmed their commitment to support Sri Lanka at this difficult time, in line with the IMF's policies, the global lender said in a statement. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said this month an IMF program is crucial to access bridge financing from sources such as the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. Representatives from Sri Lanka's financial and legal advisors, Lazard and Clifford Chance, are also in Colombo. The protesters who are at the golf faires are behaving in an unruly manner at the Ministry of Finance and in the vicinity of the premises from this morning with the arrival of the IMF representatives. Economic specialist Parakrama Basnayaka said that it is an attempt of conspiracy to prevent the relief to be received by the country from the IMF. Lotus roundabout in Colombo has repeatedly been blocked for traffic due to a protest. Meanwhile, it is reported that the protesters at the Golf Face Green have erected tents blocking the remaining entrances of the Presidential Secretariat on Lotus Road. The visit of the Secretary to the Finance Ministry at the discussion to be held with the representatives of the IMF was delayed half an hour due to this protest. But the discussion was held at the Prime Minister's office this morning under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Meanwhile, ships carrying petrol are scheduled to arrive in the island on the 23rd, 24th and the 29th of this month and the 10th of next month. There are sufficient stocks of diesel and the distribution is being carried out. Mr. Basanaik also said that the people should act patiently at this moment. The protesters who commenced a protest by blocking two other entrances to the Presidential Secretariat in Golf Face last night were removed and 21 suspects have been taken into police custody. The protesters started a protest by blocking all the entrances to the Presidential Secretariat from last night, whereas only the main entrance was blocked until last night. Meanwhile, the Lanka Private Bus Association LPBOA yesterday said that the all-island private bus services will resume to normalcy after tomorrow, following the decision of the Power and Energy Minister. Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara has agreed to provide 600,000 litres of diesel to private buses. The Petroleum Corporation will take measures to provide 900,000 litres of diesel to the SLTB in this regard. LPBOA Chairman Gamunu Wijayaratne said that more diesel stocks were already distributed and by tomorrow, 50% of buses would be operating around the country. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Australian Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill will visit Sri Lanka today as the South Asian neighbour continues to struggle with its economic and humanitarian crisis. The trip also follows the interception of multiple asylum seeker boats travelling to Australia from the nation in recent weeks. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the government wanted to use the trip to send a message that people who arrive by boat would not be settled in Australia. They will be strong on borders without being weak on humanity, but they will be strong when it comes to their borders, he told reporters. They understand that there are issues in Sri Lanka and that the wrong messages are being given to people smugglers. Their message will be very clear. Mrs. O'Neill will be meeting with the Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa during her visit, as well as Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris. Meanwhile, Australia will provide $50 million in official development assistance to support Sri Lanka to meet urgent food and healthcare needs, the Australian High Commission in Sri Lanka said. They will contribute an immediate $22 million to the World Food Programme for emergency food assistance to help 3 million people in Sri Lanka meet their daily nutritional needs, the statement said. Australia will also provide $23 million in development assistance to Sri Lanka in 2022-2023. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The World Food Programme says that nearly 5 million people, or 22% of the Sri Lankan population, are food insecure and in need of assistance. The United Nations nutritious foods, such as vegetables, fruits and protein-rich products, are now out of reach for many low-income families. The WFP's recent surveys indicated 86% of families are resorting to at least one coping mechanism, including eating less nutritious food, and even skipping meals altogether. Pregnant mothers need to eat nutritious meals every day, but the poorest find it harder and harder to afford the basics. When they skip meals, they are putting their and their children's health at risk, said Anthea Webb, the WFP Deputy Regional Director for Asia and the Pacific from Colombo. And that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the police said that they are directing special attention with regard to the increasing use of bicycles by people in the country owing to the prevailing fuel shortage. Police spokesman SSP Nihal Taldua stated that 1,202 fatal accidents have so far been reported this year and that 96 of the deceased were cyclists. He said that the lack of headlights and rear-end lights on bicycles, cyclists wearing dark-coloured clothing at night, non-compliance with road signs and not paying attention to oncoming vehicles while crossing the road have led to an increase in accidents. The traffic police have taken steps to inspect the bicycles within the next 2 weeks in this regard, he said, and that came to you in Watchlight. On to a bulletin of world news making headlines this afternoon. Dozens killed and millions stranded in India and Bangladesh floods. Magnitude 5 quake hits Ishikawa prefecture. And Macron loses majority as French vote fragments. At least 59 people are known to have died in lightning strikes and landslides triggered by severe monsoon storms in India and Bangladesh. Millions of people have been stranded, while emergency workers have struggled to reach those affected. Forecasters are warning that the flooding is expected to get worse over the next few days. Bangladesh government officials have described the recent flooding as the country's worst since 2004. Unrelenting rains over the last week have inundated vast swaths of the country's northeast region, exacerbated by runoff from heavy downpours across mountains in neighbouring India. A strong earthquake has hit the Noto region in central Japan. No tsunami alert has been issued. The magnitude 5 quake struck the Ishikawa prefecture yesterday. In Suzu City, the quake registered upper 5 on Japan's seismic intensity scale of 0 to 7. In the nearby town of Noto, the quake strength was registered as 4. The Japan Meteorological Agency says no tsunami alert has been issued. This comes one day after a slightly stronger magnitude 5.4 earthquake was reported in the same region. Less than 2 months after he was re-elected president, Emmanuel Macron has lost control of the French National Assembly following a strong performance by a left alliance and the far right. He had called on voters to deliver a solid majority, but his centrist coalition lost dozens of seats in an election that has left French politics fragmented. The Prime Minister he had only recently appointed, Elisabeth Borne, said the situation was unprecedented. A storm hit Paris as she returned to her Matignon residence after a long meeting at the presidential Élysée Palace to say that modern France had never seen a National Assembly like this one. Back to the headlines of the world news. Dozens killed and millions stranded in India and Bangladesh floods. Magnitude 5 quake hits Ishikawa prefecture. And Macron loses majority as French vote fragments. That concludes this bulletin of world news and on to development news. The Sarusara Mathota Food Security Programme is being carried out in the Kambarupitiya Divisional Secretariat Division. It will be implemented covering 29 Grama Seva Niladari divisions. The objective of this programme is to enhance the home gardening programme in the area and came to you in development news.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
The third ODI match between Australia and Sri Lanka will be played at the R. Premadasa Stadium tomorrow. Sri Lanka won the third ODI played against Australia yesterday. It has been reported that Vanidhu Hasaranga will participate for the final match. That came to you in sports news. We look at business news next.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Korean SPA Packaging Private Limited, KSPA, recently signed an agreement with the Board of Investment with respect to the resumption of the operation at the defunct Ambalipitia paper mill to manufacture paper for the corrugated industry, which had discontinued its production since 2012. The project, which is a $16 million investment in its first phase, aims at manufacturing industrial-grade papers for the direct and indirect export market by upgrading machinery and infrastructure. That's business news, economic news up next.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
A Youth Agri-Entrepreneurs Fair is being held at the Thihagoda Divisional Secretary Office today. It has been organised by the Youth Club Federation. The fair is being conducted to sell the production of youth entrepreneurs in the area and came to you in economic news.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking. LOLC Finance will continue to innovate with the next generation digitalization of financial services, delivering a superior customer experience.
On to the weather report. The Met Department says that showers will occur at times in the western and Sabragama provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts. Several spells of showers will occur in the northwestern province. Showers and thundershowers will occur at a few places in the Uva and eastern provinces during the afternoon or night. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The Prime Minister begins talks with a visiting IMF team in Sri Lanka. Lotus Roundabout in Colombo has been blocked for traffic due to a protest. Ships carrying petrol are scheduled to arrive in the island. 21 suspects who blocked the entrances to the Presidential Secretariat have been taken into custody. Australia to provide $50 million for urgent food and healthcare needs. The World Food Programme says that nearly 5 million people are insecure in food, and dozens killed and millions stranded in India and Bangladesh floods. That concludes this bulletin of news.